Welcome to the Igniting Imagination podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Greenwood, and I'm delighted to be back with you and to be joined again by my co host for this season, the Reverend Dr. Amy Butler. Hi, Amy.
Hey, Lisa. This has been so fun. It really has.
It has been fun. So, this is our final episode in this season, and we've been exploring the theme healing the world through new models of ministry. And if you haven't listened to these episodes, it's really worth your time. So, I hope you'll go back and check them out. These are stories of unique approaches to ministry, and listening to these leaders may open up a new idea or inspire you with a new question in your context. I think you'll find that it's certainly true in the conversation that we have today with Tiffany. But before we jump in, since this is our last episode, Amy, I'd love to talk through just a little bit about what we've seen over the course of the season. And I'm going to start with this. It strikes me that some of the leaders, like Josh Hayashi from Mission Management Company and Beverly Jenkins from Refuge and Restoration, and even Leslie Matthews, attorney from Speak Up and Out, not only see their work as ministry, they actually use God language directly in their work and on their websites. And they see this as their calling and how they're living out that calling. And then there are others like Katie Kenyon with Village Green and Samantha Matthews with Andre Collective, and even a little bit with Tiffany today, that they're doing incredible work. They are transforming lives, and their motivation is very much love. And they would even call it a calling from Jesus, but they really don't explicitly talk about it in their work. And so I'm curious from you, what's your take on this kind of implicit and explicit way of approaching what I'm going to call Christian social enterprise? So why might one be explicit or maybe not? And what's your take on that, Amy?
Thanks for that question. I just really have loved this whole entire season because you have highlighted such a variety of stories of folks who are doing work that is healing the world. And,
Mm.
I think what happens is that people of faith traditionally, like me, I mean, I pastor a small church. We we often, and especially in this moment of decline, are making decisions based on fear. It's not that
Mm.
God's work in the world is ending. It's just that perhaps we aren't opening our eyes to see it in the ways that it is now revealing itself. And I always go back to the reminder that Jesus did not sit in a pew every single weekend to
Uh-huh.
worship. Jesus was out there feeding people and meeting them where they were and calling Zacchaeus down from a tree. And I am telling you, these people are doing the work of God in the world. It's just
Mm.
a question for us in the church whether we're willing to join them. That's it.
Mm. Yeah. So what's the fear? Like when you say it's like we're live people are living in this fear, like what's the fear, you think?
Right. So I hope, and this, I'm sorry for saying this, but this is always my hope that our conversations will make traditional church people like me real uncomfortable because
Mm.
I don't
Mhm.
want to, I don't want to give up the organ. And I'm worried about that stained glass window that's named after my grandma.
Mm.
And the world is changing so fast and so hard. Like, can't we just have 1 hour a week that's exactly the same?
Ah.
And I think if we're being honest about who God is, the answer to that question is a resounding no. God is ever creating. And and us preserving something that
Mm.
used to
Hmm.
make us feel comfortable is perhaps sometimes not the way of Jesus.
So the fear is kind of a fear of loss.
Oh,
Like, we
so
don't
much
wanna we don't
grief.
wanna feel that. We don't wanna lose, that which is so close to our heart, that which formed us, that which formed our family perhaps, or, um, gave us the safe place, and so it it all feels like loss, and that's scary.
It does.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
God does not leave us. God will not leave
yeah,
us.
yeah.
We've been teaching people that since the beginning of the church.
Yeah, right, right. I mean, that's the scripture, right? I am with you. That's like beginning, end, and middle.
Yes.
I'm with you, always. And okay, so back to this question about these folks that are doing social enterprise, and some are explicitly doing it from a place of calling and faith, and some are a little more. It's a little more implicit, and so I'm going to come at that from a little bit different direction and
I'm
say
sorry. I know I didn't answer your question.
well,
So go ahead.
I mean, I don't know that there's an easy answer here, right? I mean, all of us are kind of just trying to look at things from a different angle to say, "Hey, what's keeping us from doing this? What are we learning from that?" Um and so I guess I'm going to look at it from a little different angle to get at it, and that is that when we look at the history of the church used to be like the place for social services. Like we started hospitals and schools, went to the prisons, support for the unhoused and childcare, and we can go on, right? And a and for the last, several decades, I would say, like, it's still happening to some degree, but also those services have largely shifted to the nonprofit world.
Yes.
And so how would you describe the relationship for the church and nonprofits? What should it be? What might it be? Like, into the future, like, as you look at that landscape? From your perspective, because as you have said, like, you pastor a church, and that's what you've always done, and you're working with all these Christian social entrepreneurs, and so you are straddling this space, I think, in a pretty unique way that I think can speak into it. So, what are you
So
seeing?
yes, I think the church for so long has been a monolith. It has been the place where
Mm,
communities have come to find all of these things, and honestly, we have been distracted by decline. Because
mm,
culture is changing around us, our institutions are declining. Um,
mhm,
I have to tell you, I was last week, I was at a lunch on our church campus with all of our partners who are here, Meals on Wheels, Family Hui Hawaii, Tutu and Me,
mm,
which is a family service organization, and we were talking about how the work that we do to heal the world is so much more effective when we do it together.
mm,
And
mhm.
and let us not commit the sin of considering the church a monolith in such a way that it distracts us from the very real needs that are around us. Maybe we're not meeting those needs in the same way we did before, but we can
Yeah,
sure be part of doing it now.
yeah, yeah. We often talk about the church not shifting their focus from serving their neighbors, and I'm using air quotes here, to being a neighbor, and what that means in terms of decentering power and distributing power, what it means in terms of partnerships and relationships. And so if we see ourselves as part of the community, part of the neighborhood, part of the ecosystem, then it's all about these partnerships and relationships. It's not the church as the provider of all things. And so I love the picture you're painting with these folks gathered, right? That, like, understanding that we're in it together.
Yes, and I will say, I think talking to social entrepreneurs as we have on this season is so deeply important because in many situations, the church has lost a place at the table because we are unwilling to open our minds and our hearts
Yes.
to partner in other ways and to see the work of Jesus in
Mhm.
the bus that says a better way grocer.
Yes. Yes, yes. And so when we think about partnerships and relationships and we look at these nonprofits, that's not an invitation or a get what's it's not a get out of jail free card. That's not the right thing. It's not an invitation to step out of the work. It is actually an invitation to step up and into those relationships, to not abdicate our voice, but to actually have a more full voice in the work and in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Um,
And
yeah.
Lisa, I have to say, like in my work and conversations with churches who are making this sort of shift in their mindset, I see very clearly the move from fear to this tremendous hope that generates excitement and gives us um, hope for the future, for our communities, for our churches, for our children, and
Mhm.
watching that process happen, watching us learn to trust God in new ways is so beautiful. And as we'll hear Tiffany say, it makes my toes wiggle every morning.
Yeah, yeah, that's so good. That's so good. So this has been such a rich time with you, Amy. I'm so grateful for you, for who you are, for your leadership, and for such a time as this, in this moment. Thank you so much for what you're doing and who you are. You have introduced us to these amazing folks. So thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I'm so grateful.
And friends, please do check out Invested Faith's website, investedfaith.org, and be sure to pre order Amy's new book with Don Darwin Weeks, Holy Disruption, a manifesto for the future of faith communities, that is coming out in July, which is a moved up date. It was supposed to be September and now it's going to be in July.
That's
That
right.
is great news, Amy. That's very fun.
We're real happy about that and hopeful that it'll be a resource for fall programming for churches that are looking for some really good discussion about where we go next.
Yeah, yeah, which is so good. So, with that, our guest today is incredible. Amy, will you share with us about Tiffany Terrell?
You guys are going to love Tiffany. She is a visionary community advocate and social innovator. She always has been, to her very bones. And she has found her expression of calling in addressing
Mm,
health disparities in Southwest Georgia. She lives in Albany, and she is the co founder of A Better Way Grocers that leads initiatives to bring nutritious and locally sourced foods to neighborhoods that didn't have access to that before. So large grocery stores have left that region and folks were limited to buying groceries at the corner store. Tiffany's
mm,
work is rooted in love and belonging, in shared dignity. You will hear her talk about how providing fresh food sparks conversations that inspire lasting transformation. She is
yeah,
an Infested Faith Fellow, and she also recently was named a Rockefeller Foundation's Big Bet Fellow. So they're taking a chance on her and her work. She's truly inspiring. Her work reflects a deep commitment to compassion and courage and the flourishing, you'll hear it, for
yeah.
every person.
So let's listen to our conversation with Tiffany. Hi, Tiffany. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's a joy and pleasure to be here.
Oh, I can't wait to have this conversation. So,
Looking forward
your
to it.
organization is A Better Way Grocers.
Correct.
So, I'd love to start there and talk a little bit about, okay, what makes it a better way, but also maybe some of the key moments that brought you to this moment,
Okay.
moments in your own life, but also in your organization's journey. Can
Yeah. Why a better way? Because it was a better way for people to access healthy foods. And a lot of times people think that because people either don't have a way to the grocery store or they don't have food in their communities, they always assume that people don't want it. And so when we
Mm,
were coming up with the concept, we were like, you know what? people do. Let's just give them a better way to access it. And so that's where the notion came up with, from just being able to get food directly to people and giving them a better way, a better option, and being able to just be there for
Yeah, I love that way is in the name
them.
because it's kind of a play on that word,
Hmm.
access, a way to access. That's
Yep,
so
everything.
tell us about how you came to found A Better Way Grocers.
Actually, what happened? We just kind of stumbled up on it. I was actually at a conference for um childcare, and at this conference they was talking about like food. And during that time, we had a lot of conversations going around in Albany about food deserts. At that time, the local Harveys was getting ready to close, and they just talk about food deserts. So in this meeting, they were
Mm,
talking about food deserts and showing different things that other states had done to get food directly to people. But this particular time they were doing it in a van. And so as I started to think about it, and as everything collided with what was being talked about at home and what was being talked about at this conference, I was like, oh, that's something that we can do to help our community. And so that particular night when I got back home, I think it was the next night it was born. I found our original truck, which was featured in one of the Good Faith Media videos, as a matter of fact, to where it was like a old ice cream milk truck.
mm,
We went and bought that like that next night that I came home, and we started working on outfitting it and figuring out how we could get into these communities to provide them with fresh access to groceries, to no longer allow them to be food deserts.
nice, nice. So when you say we, who was involved in that initial conversation and tell us a little bit about your team?
Yes. So in that original conversation, it was my husband. I was thinking about the different things that we can do. And if you know anything about a true entrepreneur, my husband was just like, okay, I mean, if you, I know, I believe in you. So if I know if you want to get it done, we can get it done. And then that's where my stepdad came into place because he's got carpenter skills. And so I drew it out for him, believe it or not, on a sheet of paper to exactly how we designed it. No engineering background whatsoever, but I could draw on I can draw on pen and
Fabulous.
paper. So once I drew it out and figured out what we could do and how we could use the space in the truck, meaning including a freezer, cooler, and shelving. And he just, carpenters, they can bolt it in. And so that's exactly what he did. We got licensed, and came up with our routes, and we got to rolling.
Tiffany,
Awesome.
I love I love that part of your story. I mean, is it true that you went on Facebook Marketplace to find the
L-
truck?
Yes, I love Facebook Marketplace.
Me
I literally was
too.
on there. I'm on there like when I go, that's the first place that I look because I'm a bargain shopper. And so that's kind of when you're on a limited budget, that's the first place I look and see who's trying to get rid of something and who wants to trade something.
See, I feel this is a fundamental reason we are friends. Tell us like how this like logistically works.
Yeah.
How do people access fresh groceries from A Better Way Grocer?
So, this organically happens, you guys. So, the pandemic though was an awful thing, but we know that the most vulnerable populations were seniors, and so organically, a lot of people who had relatives, grandparents, aunts, moms who lived in senior places, and they were like, hey, my mom lives out there, we want her to be able to get fresh food because we don't want her out at the grocery store. So that's kind of one of the ways that it originally, happened. And then now it just pretty much just takes off. Like if they know that people need fresh food access, they don't have to pay anybody to take them to the grocery store. And then they know that we have it, and even some of our other programs, they just call us up. If we're not already in that community, we try to figure out a little bit about the landscape, knowing if there's another grocery store, how many people are in that area would be willing to come out on a weekly basis. And that's how we design our stops.
Mm.
So are you like a food truck that parks on a street and people come to you, or do you do deliveries to home?
So, there's one or two ways that we do it. Just depends on the access to the streets, but majority of our model is based off of proximity and access to those where we can park. So if we can
Okay.
park in those places, we get in there, we set up, we pull everything off of the bus because majority of those people that do live in those communities, they're either on walking canes, they're either on some type of wheelchair, or have very bad knees. So we learned that as we started to go into those communities. So we take everything out, put it on tables, so they don't have to walk up those steps on the
Mm.
bus, because those steps are really hard for a lot of them to walk up. And so we pull everything out, set it up, and then we just operate as a store. They go up and down like an open air market.
Ah, love it.
Nice.
You were founded, your website says, on three principles: support,
Hmm.
empowerment, and progress. Take
Hmm.
us through each one of those and give us some examples of how A Better Way is making those things a reality.
So support. So usually like your non-traditional models, like A Better Way, people, we don't have everything. So let's just address that. Like we're not gonna have everything that people would typically go up and down the aisle and pick through in a regular grocery store. So that was one of the bigger issues when we first rolled out. People would come out, you might get one or two people. But I think the important thing was for communities to know, like, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I know that's a harsh thing to say, but that's what happens in our communities where you may have a regular, brick and mortar store and people don't go or they don't know what's in there. 9 times out of 10, they don't last. And that's a
Mhm.
big thing in our community, in most communities. So, being able to, relate to the customers and just let them know, hey, yes, I know that we don't have everything, but there's some things that we do have and we're making it convenient for you. And letting them understand too, a lot of times, like, yes, we have to support things that are in our community so that way we can have it. So that was thing one. And then the progress part of it is just making sure that people understand what they're eating, why they're eating it. It's not always about taste, it's not
Mm.
always about texture. So we have to really get out of the notion of understanding, especially when it relates to food, by saying, oh, well, something is nasty and I don't like it. Why don't you like it? Is there a better way to prepare it? Is there something, what is it that you don't like about it? And so when
Mhm.
we can change those things and help people learn how they can prepare certain meals, then we've made progress because we're eating food to live for the health benefit of it, not because it should be sweet. And I think once people understand that, then that's a part of our progress.
Sounds like you're describing something I've heard you say, and that is kind of developing a culture of healthy eating,
Hmm.
like in a variety of ways. And
Hmm.
so, how is that informing the what you provide, but also the conversations and the engagement you're having in the community itself?
So I mean, it's just, I mean, I know it's something that it's simple, but it is just really simple. And one of the things that we've done, sometimes you have to show people, it doesn't matter their age. You really have to have that hard conversation with people. And being a ground floor and community based business, we're able to have those real conversations. So something simple as a recipe card. And a lot of times people, you would be surprised how many times people just don't know and they make up something. I mean, it's real. I mean, well, I don't like that. And I was like, okay, well, if you eat this, why not like that? Oh, I just never. And then after you dig and dig and push and probe, it's just, I never had it. We didn't grow up eating it. Um, that's not, a part of our culture. So many different things. And then if you allow them to try it, at one point we had some funding to where we could have just allowed people to just try something. Hey, take this recipe, try to prepare it, and tell me what you think. 9 times out of 10, more often than not, people always come back and say, hey, you know what? I didn't have it that way. You know what? This is actually good. And so those are the things that we count. And a lot of it is just really misinformation, misunderstanding, or afraid to try something new. And you, like I said, you would be surprised on how many people were just haven't had something, just because my mama never cooked it. And these are 60, 70-year-old people, and it's easy to say, dang, like, who stopped y'all? But then you realize how deep culture is rooted in a lot of our food and our meals. And it's like, okay, I get it. I
Yeah.
understand.
So, like, some one thing that listeners might like to know is, like, if you have cucumbers for sale, it says on the sign, it helps with high blood pressure. Like
Correct.
you just, like, say it and connect
Correct.
food to health. You also do a lot of social networking, and we found that when we rode the bus with you. Would you tell us a little bit about the social benefit of the bus showing up in town for some
Oh
of
my
these
God.
folks who are looking for food?
So food again, food is what connects people, right?
Yes.
Like people have all types of conversation over food. They have conversations about and food. Believe it or not, it gets competitive too. Who cooks something the best? But also a key component. People are looking forward to us coming out because it is a social time for them. It's a gathering to talk about food, something that we've done for many years. Getting inspired to try something that the neighbor is cooking, or sharing a meal and knowing what they're cooking and saying, "Hey, let me try that," and they get enough for the next person. Um, I don't know. I can't remember the percentage of older people who live alone and who's looking for that time to really connect with people. And what we've learned throughout this process, they're looking forward to us being a major part of their day, of their
Mhm.
week, to come out and just have that social time to let us know what's going on, or for them to even find out what's going on with us. And most of our stops that should only be a 30-minute stop will most of the time, which we learned earlier on, will be an hour 15-minute stop, just so that we can socialize with them, find out how they're doing, and then they share their health challenges with us, and then they'll start to look for something things that they could do different.
That's so powerful and amazing, and it's actually quite biblical. That's what Jesus was always doing, going around having meals with people, and
Right.
so it's like this brilliant. I'm wondering if you could tell us a story of somebody whose life has been impacted by A Better Way Grocers.
So we just opened our store, which will be coming up in the next 30 days, will be 1 year. And one thing that I can tell you is because we are processing it there, we not only opened a market, community market. We have a fresh market in it, which people can get fresh juices, wellness shots. Like we're doing the whole thing around community health. So beets has been a major pusher for us because in our community, there's a high percentage of diabetes, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. We're in Southwest Georgia, and so one of the things that we were really had high hopes for were our beet juices and really introducing beets to people. We took time in coming up with a recipe that could resonate, that could really not take the beets out of the beet juice, but to make it more appetizing. I know I still hear you. But believe me, not because it's ours. We really have some of the best beet juice around. And so when you can hear testimonies of people who are watching their blood pressure decrease week after week, or when they can go home, and which, buying an $8 beet juice every day can get kind of expensive. We know that. But we always also tell people the cost of health and being here, and medicine and pharmaceuticals is expensive as well. So you just got to pick. Um, but even to the point where they come in and they're buying their beets and their carrots from us to go home and duplicate the recipe, so that way they can have that beet juice every day. And so things like that resonates well with our programs, our mission, and seeing people live healthier lives. And if we can do that by showing them how to prepare um, basics, food, drinks, something, a wellness shot, then we count that as toward achieving our mission.
I so appreciate how you are linking food and social and medical all connected, and really trying to tend to not just the food piece, but how do we really help folks see the benefit, but also how to take those steps. Everything from making beet juice palatable, and
I
also
know.
I happen to be a beets fan actually. So, but also, recipe cards, those kinds of things that help folks take those steps. That feels really important. And it occurs to me that there's been this increased attention to food deserts, and maybe even some progress perhaps, but I'd love to hear you talk about what you're seeing in the landscape today around food
Hmm.
deserts.
So there has been a increase and a focus. Not only food deserts. So when we talk about food deserts, people really don't like to use the word food deserts, but we
Mm,
use it a lot just because that's just a word that people know. And the reason why they don't want to use it because they said that deserts are natural, and what happens in communities is that food deserts are not
that's
natural. We
helpful.
we we
Yeah.
know that. However, so but when we also look at that landscape and we look at the communities that don't have it, we understand why, and we understand why, but then we don't understand why. Usually in those communities, Black and Brown communities, we have a different connection when it comes to food. I'll just use the word connection, and it's rooted in soul. It's rooted in history, and so I think a lot of those places, we get forgotten about when it comes to fresh access, and part of it is knowledge, part of it is access. But and I always tell people, there's a way, like when we overcook our collard greens and we overcook our cabbage and we cook all the nutrients. So we've got to find a way to have that, then something else, because we need those nutrients. We can't, even though there was a notion at one point where people were talking about white folks' food and black folks' food and what white people did to their food or didn't do to their food. But when we look at the numbers, I always remind people, when we look at the numbers in our culture, for us, the rates of high blood pressure, diabetes is the highest. So how do we explain that? I mean, what are we talking about when it comes to saying that a nice salad with beets and onions and oranges in it, is for white people, when it's a healthy, it's for all of us. So it's really incumbent upon us, as Black people, people of color, to tap in and let our city leaders know and let big corporations know, hey, we want this food
Yeah.
as well. So that's just kind of like one of the things that really, is on my mind heavily as I'm educating people, because we've got to break that stigma, and we've got to change the landscape for not only for us, but we've got to change it for our grandchildren. We've
Yeah.
got to have people to be able to walk, or we've got to have access to these foods. People learn better. Our communities are better when communities are healthier. The workforce jobs come because people, they're not afraid that people are the health risks that are just so high, and that people are going to come to work. So everything is connected to a healthy diet. When corporations see high rates of diabetes, cholesterol, they know that those are the people that are not the healthiest. And when we look at workforce, who's coming here?
Mm.
And so those are some of the things that you can think about, and we've got to change the way we eat. We got to change the way we people understand what our diets consist of, and only people that can do that is us. And so that's why we go so hard to educate people, because we have to change that narrative, so that way these big corporations can understand that people like spinach on this side of the town too. People like eggplant on this. I mean,
Right. Right.
it's just really one of those things. And we've got to really work to make sure that people understand how to prepare it, what it tastes like. So that way, it's data. It's like people got to see
Yeah.
that people really want that. And so that's what we come in and do a really good job, because we have all those things on our bus as well. So we're
Well,
educating them, we're teaching them how to prepare it, and we're just making a mark that way.
yeah. I appreciate that you are speaking broadly, like to folks who are who are leaders or lawmakers or community leaders in the community, as well as the folks um, who are
Consumers.
shopping
Yeah.
at your store and your grocer truck and those sorts of things. So many of our listeners are from congregations. Some are pastors, some are lay leaders, and a number of congregations get into feeding ministries.
Hmm.
And I'm curious what advice or wisdom or best practices you've learned that might share about how congregations can support ministries like yours or even think about their own feeding ministries.
Okay,
Yeah.
so two ways. So for support for us, if they're in our area, if they want to come out and volunteer, or if they want to send donations, they can go directly to our site to donate, because that helps us put fuel on the bus. We don't charge any delivery fees. And then also when we do programming, it helps us educate people. We're able to provide samples. We're able to have chefs out on site teaching people how to prepare these meals to make sure that they can prepare them in a tasty way when they do go back home with the product. So it helps with a number of things. And then things that people can do in pantries. Who's ever shopping for the church pantries? I think just really understanding that just because you think people are hungry, that doesn't mean you have to give them anything. Because a lot of times with those pantry boxes, you would not believe how many times I have people that tell me, "Hey, do you think somebody would want this?" And when I look in the box, it's a pantry box
Mm.
from either a church or a food bank donation. And I'm not saying that there's not anything in it. And I know that churches and food banks have worked hard and to better those boxes. But a lot of times, just making sure that it does have something to match to make a meal. And just really thinking about something. Is this something that you would eat? And we have to be real transparent. And I'm real transparent when it comes to this. And I always share this. Um, Before I started this, my son was kindergarten. I remember, I think it was kindergarten. It was elementary school where they take those where they get an extra incentive for bringing canned foods to school. And shame on me, and I'll tell my truth. I would always say, well, get something in there that we don't eat. Shame on me. Um,
We've all done that. We've taken the things that have sat there for a while and we've put them in a bag to send to the canned food drive. And like, I'm just embarrassed to think about the kinds of things we've
right.
donated. And
Yeah.
so I appreciate your naming it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so with that, if you it was something that you didn't want or something that you just picked up, they're going to do the same thing. But the situation is going to be a little bit different for those people because they were counting on something that they could prepare to make a meal. And so,
Mhm.
what made me think about that was I was talking to somebody at our local bank about making a donation, and they said to me that, oh, we're already doing our own drive. So cool. I was already standing there. I peeped down in the box and I looked at it and I said, expired, expired,
Oh,
expired.
oh, even worse. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm literally at the bank, and and they're telling me that they've already doing their. So I had to look in there because I know if I did it,
Hmm.
my mama told me, and I remember when I was in school,
Hmm.
and I remember my mama saying, "Get something in there that." And so when I was just wanting to look down in the box. I mean, it was something, but it was nothing,
Hmm.
you know. And so with that, I think it's just being confident. Who's ever buying the food? Think about if it was something that if you were on your last dollar or you didn't know where a meal was going to come from and you needed something to eat. purchase things that you would want, that you would be satisfied going home to make a meal with, and watch
Mhm.
the difference you'll make. You'll truly make a difference then.
That is
Because the thing is,
that is such a good word. Thank you for that, and I'll echo what Lisa said. Thanks for naming what we have all done and what we need to do. Um, Tiffany, I will never forget the first one of the first times I spoke to you on Zoom. I was with my colleague Anita, and we all three of us started crying. It was like a beautiful a beautiful moment, and what we were talking about was your work as ministry, because I think a lot of people will say, "Oh, Tiffany Terrell, she's got it. This is a great nonprofit." Um, but how do we help people of faith make the connection that this is the hands and feet of God in the world?
Mm.
just serving with compassion and not judgment. I'm gonna go to church on y'all. I'm gonna repeat it again. Serving with compassion and no judgment.
Mm.
We have to remove judgment from the way we do things, because the model is already set.
Mm.
You're doing the work. So then you mean you're gonna get in there and pick and choose how you know, how you do the work this day for this person. It doesn't work like that, you
Mm.
know. We do it because we want to do it, and you don't judge. It doesn't matter
Mm.
if somebody took their food stamps, or if they are not going to eat all the food, if they ask for, two boxes, maybe because they want to get their neighbor something, and we're thinking that they're going to sell it, or and to be the reality of it, the stuff that most people give out, it's not, I mean, sell it to who, you
Mm.
know? But if we can take some of those judgments out of the way that we serve people, that's the whole model. We've
Mm.
created it to serve or be of service to people, and then why would we turn around and go back and judge?
Yeah. How does your faith play a part in this ministry for you?
Just doing what I would want done from me, for me, for my
Mm.
grandmother, for my, you just never know when it's your turn.
Mm.
And we have to be such good stewards of the work that we say that we're going to do, that we've been called to do. And we got to service our people. Like,
Mm.
why get into it if we don't? And I get up every day invigorated to see a difference, to see
Mm.
a change into people. I think I found like my life's work, the passion for this work. I can't describe it. I mean, each day I get up and I wiggle my toes, and it's like, even though I may be hit with, like today, our air conditioning went out, but it's okay. It's par for the
Mm.
course. It's just something that happens. But guess what? We'll be back to do it tomorrow. So, I mean, just really being excited and invigorated about it, not letting people steal your joy, because people love to rain on your parade. And
Mm.
once you find it within yourself, there's nothing nobody can do to take that from you. God has already gave it to you.
Mm.
He's already seen that everything is going to be just fine. Now, are there going to
Mm.
be obstacles and mishaps? Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. But we got to really keep going, serving the people, doing what you said you would do. Because God honors his word, and you keep yours too.
Okay, Amy, I'm going to go to the last question unless you have something else. Are you good? All right. All right. I'm going to jump in. So, Tiffany, we have one last question that we've been
Mhm.
asking all our guests this season, and it comes from the Isaiah 43 passage that says, do not consider the things of old, for behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? And so the question is this: what is an old thing that you think we need to not consider anymore? And what is a new thing that you see God doing that is springing forth?
I think I'll answer the first one for the last question first.
Okay.
What I see God doing right now is challenging us all. And I'll say that because most of the time, everything has been so doom and gloom for the last couple of years. And I think there's another a higher calling back to faith and understanding of where we are and what we're doing. I find myself more being more graceful. I hear
Mhm.
that a lot now. I hear people all the time, just extend grace, just grace. We need grace. Like every
Mhm.
social media page that you turn to,
Mhm.
every conversation, people are talking about grace. And I think what it's aligning is giving people an opportunity to learn what grace is for one
Mhm.
and extend a lot of it with patience. The only
Right.
thing that we need to leave behind is thinking that our work is in the church,
Mm. That it's
you know,
only inside the church.
that it's only inside the church.
Mm.
Um, our work is wherever.
Mm.
Our work is wherever. And that could be for organizations, that could be for things that the churches are thinking about doing. We all know that churches are declining, attendance and all of that stuff. Um, but we got to think about things different. We got to get innovative about them. And when I talk about judgment, I think that there's a higher calling for us to connect because people are struggling. And until the people we, that we, I'm trying to be correct too, the people who have that, like myself and you guys who have that higher calling to do something different could be in several realms of how we serve people. There's so much
Mm.
going on: mental
Mm.
health, behavioral issues with children, overwhelmed parents, mothers because of finances and families and health and so whatever we're doing, so we can stop judgment and be more of assistance. And when there's nothing left, we can only extend grace.
Mm. Yeah. May it be so. May it be so. I hear you saying, let's not limit what the Holy Spirit can do, right? Let's
Yes,
be open. Let's not put a
exactly.
box around that Holy Spirit. And
Absolutely.
when we listen and pay attention, God can do amazing things. Well, Tiffany,
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful for your being with us today and sharing your story and talking about Better Way Grocers and this incredible ministry that you're doing that is so transformative. It's not just about food; it's really about well-being
Absolutely.
and um, and equity. I mean, they're just I so thank you
Yes,
for what you're doing.
you're welcome, and thank you guys for having me.
I want to say too, just thanks for doing the work. It's so
Yeah,
important. Just thanks for just seeing it and going out there and doing it.
Absolutely. I don't
Give
think,
me some big
it's
inspiration.
a roller coaster every day. I mean, every day it's a roller coaster. But within that roller coaster, you get some thrills and then you get some frills and then you get, how it goes. But
yeah,
we just ask people to extend a little grace and understanding, and we got each other. It's about community. It's about transforming and changing lives and doing what we said that we would do.
yeah.
Thank
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.